Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another fantastic week of questions. We've got a couple for you today. It's more than a couple, it's a few. It's not too many though, so it should be a nice, concise episode. We're going to jump to them in just a minute, but before we do, don't forget the YouTube magic. Like, share, subscribe, put a comment down below, and you can help grow the Kendo population. We've already had about 5,217 people start Kendo, probably because of your efforts in commenting down below what a great Kendo video or words to that effect, so that the YouTube robots find somebody, they hunt them out, somebody that's about to start Kendo, they're just on the fringes of starting Kendo, and the YouTube robots like Terminator identify them, grab them and drag them into our wonderful world of Kendo just by you commenting down below what a great Kendo video. So do your duty, go and make a comment just like that. Like, share, subscribe, and help the YouTube robots do their job. And let's try and get to like 5,497 people probably start Kendo through those means. Okay, let's try and do that. More importantly though, if you like these videos, if you like Kendo Rant, if you like the Kendo feedback videos, got the new series Kendo Zero to Sandan. Just put up a video this week about Kendo Kata. There's more coming as well, and I've got more instructional content planned separate to that also. Then you need to be shopping at KendoStar.com. Now I'm sure you are anyway, but just in case you didn't know, the KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the history of the human race. It is, since the Big Bang, there's never been an as brilliant Kendo equipment company as KendoStar.com. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, but everybody agrees with me. You're going to shop with us anyway. Don't buy twice. Don't go and buy at some rando place and then get disappointed and end up coming and buying again from us. Do what the smart people do. Buy with us in the first place, and everybody's a winner. All right, you get the best Kendo equipment, you get the best service out there, and you get to support the channel. All right, it's KendoStar.com. Be smart, do that. Okay, let's get to these questions. Okay, this one came to me by private message, so let's have a look what it says. It says, "Hi Fisher Sensei, I have 2 questions for the rant. First, a few months ago I received my Myrmidon set and I've been enjoying it immensely. Good choice. I knew it would be protective, but it's also very comfortable, and I had an excellent time with it so far, including in Shiai. Yeah, it's a great set actually for that. A lot of people ask me about it because it's built to be extremely protective. You know, the futon's really thick, and they worry if it's like heavy or something like that, but it's not heavy at all. It's great for all purpose uses, including Shiai. Anyway, after practice, I take the set out of the bag so that it can air out, and typically do a bit of alcohol spray, 70 to 90% concentration on the couple of parts of the men and the kote as well. However, I work up quite a sweat during practice, and despite these steps, I'm starting to end up with a slight smell, though certainly less than my older set. Other than doing a gentle wipe down on the men and a deep clean of the kote per your previous video on Borga maintenance, is there anything more I can do to help keep things clean and fresh? I'm currently only able to practice once a week, but when that number goes up, I'll be rotating between sets. But if possible, I prefer not to have to rotate Borga for once a week practices. Okay, let's do that before you do second question. So the spraying with alcohol, that's fine. Look, the best thing you can do is just air it out as much as you can, and you know, try to give it as much of a break as you can between practices. Sorry. You know, spraying the alcohol works all right. A good thing you can do, get into the habit of wiping it down after practice. Okay, so when you're finished, wipe it down after practice and try and wipe some of the sweat off it, like immediately after, and then leave it to dry. I think you might find that sort of helps as well. All right. Second, in the past, I talked about some of the common mistakes. You've talked about some of the common mistakes people tend to make when doing a lot of sloppy suburi at home. Are there familiar common mistakes you suggest people watch out for when practicing footwork at home? Now that I teach more, I find that I have to do more of my personal improvement, especially footwork, on my own at home. But I don't want to just be on autopilot, putting in work that doesn't amount to anything because I'm not training carefully enough. Thank you. Yeah, well, look, it's the same as anything, isn't it? You know, they say practice makes perfect, but then they really say perfect practice makes perfect, right? So it doesn't matter if it's suburi, if it's footwork, or if it's just putting on your boga. If you don't, it doesn't matter how often you practice it. If you're not practicing it with the intention of improving, then you're not going to improve. All right. So you've got to really have the focus, right? Just practicing something's not good enough to improve it. It's just not. You have to practice with the intention of getting better. So, and it goes for in the dojo as well, right? You could do keiko every day, and you could do 50 kirikaishi at every keiko, and you could still never get better if you just do it on autopilot. So you have to really focus on it. So when you're doing your footwork practice at home, I don't know what kind of footwork practice you're doing, but let's imagine that you're doing sort of suriashi practice. Then really focus on pushing from your left leg, sliding your feet smoothly, push from the left, draw up the left quickly with fast hikitsuke, and keep the left foot straight as you can. And make sure that you're not sort of bobbing down and that you're doing that effective suriashi. If you're concerned about it, then video it and rewatch it and check, is this really the kind of kendo suriashi that I want to do? So that you can sort of keep on top of yourself and keep yourself accountable. I'm in a very similar position in that, I don't have a lot of input from outside, but we've been sort of talking about this a lot recently, and it's like, well, yeah, maybe there is input or not, but at the end of the day, it doesn't, you can't rely on input from others either. You have the main impetus for your improvement comes from yourself in any case, all right? Whether you've got a sensei that's teaching you every week or not, the sensei can tell you stuff. It's up to you to do it, right? So it's really, really down to you. So it definitely is a case of that too. All right, so just keep focusing on those things, whether it's suburi you're doing at home, whether it's footwork you're doing at home, and when you're in the dojo, keep that stuff in mind as well. Yeah. Okay, I've been practicing this, and do it that way. Okay. I'm sure you'll do great. Okie dokie. Next one. Hi, Andy Sensei. So my regular sensei says that I need to work on my stamina in Jigeko. After about 2 or 3 minutes, I'm super spent. Now, I'm not going to say I'm in the best shape in the world, but I also don't totally lack exercise. You'd said in a previous Kendo rant how Kendo won't necessarily get you in shape because you've seen plenty of fat dudes doing Kendo. So my question is, my stamina more a factor of improper breathing versus actual physical exertion? If that's the case, just more Ichikomi and Kirikaishi with loud ki. Are there any other things you've figured out to help with breathing? Because my muscles are still ready to go, but my lungs are just killing me. Second question, I know that your menhimo are supposed to be less than 40 centimeters, but is there a range like 30 to 40 centimeters? Thanks. Okay, this is a great question, and it's something I think a lot of people struggle with. And I'll tell you what I think that the cause of your exhaustion is. I don't necessarily think it's a lack of stamina, because it can be, but I don't think so. I have a lack of stamina in that if I stand doing Jigeko for more than an hour, I start to get really tired. All right, so I need to improve my stamina so that I can stand and do Jigeko for longer. But it's a different sort of situation. What you're saying is, if you start doing Jigeko after 2 minutes, you're out of breath. It's not a stamina issue. It is, but it's not that you're lacking in general stamina. What it is you're over tense, right, in your keiko, and that's not just physically tense. It is physically tense, but it's not just physically tense. It's mentally tense as well. Oh, we're doing Jigeko. Okay, I've got to really concentrate as much as I can. You do have to concentrate as much as you can, but you're kind of all pent up like this, and then your body's all like this, and your muscles are all like this, and then you're going like this. I've got to shout loud, and I've got to do this, and especially when you're doing with the sensei, you want the sensei to think that you're doing good, right? So you tend to get even more like this, and that happens to me too, right? Don't get me wrong. You know, a couple of weeks ago we had the 8th Dan senseis here in the UK, and one of the senseis, very very famous sensei actually, and I've sort of known the sensei for many years, not seen him for a long time, managed to get to the first to do keiko with him. Of course, I want to impress him. There's a part of my ego that wants that, right? I want him to think that I've got better and I've improved and stuff like that. So I have that sort of pressure on myself, and I get all nervous in the keiko. So I get even more tired than I normally would, even though it was just a 2-minute keiko. I was absolutely really, really tired afterwards. So I think it's a mental thing in terms of the sort of pressure that you put on yourself. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing either, but what I would say is probably in more time with more keiko, you do get a little bit more used to it. So I definitely think it's that, rather than like, okay, you need to sort of fit up or something like that. It's not, I don't think it's that sort of thing. I think it's about the sort of the mental. You sort of getting mentally tired. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I think that comes from. In terms of your second question about the menhimo, yeah, they should be less than 40 centimeters. And in terms of the range, look, there's no fixed range on the menhimo, but it's got to look well balanced. All right, essentially, it's got to look balanced, and it's different for everybody. That's why there isn't a set specific sort of length, because it depends on the individual person as to what the right length really looks right as. So my opinion is, you know, you have to sort of judge it in that regard. And if it's too short, it looks kind of dumb. So it's like having hakama that are too short. It doesn't look right. Okay. Just like if it's too long. So yeah, it should be less than 40 centimeters. But if it's like 15, 20 centimeters, then it looks kind of rubbish too. So I think 30 to 40 is a good baseline as an idea. But again, it depends on the individual, right? If you're very tall, maybe longer would look better than somebody that's very short. So, you know, so bear that in mind too. Okay. Okay. Next one. Hi, Andy. Thanks as usual for the show. No, thank you for watching and participating. I have a question for the FKFP, Fisher Kendo Fashion Police. Yeah, I'm going to get a badge. I'm about to buy my first Shinpan suit. Okay. The only info I found about Shinpan uniforms are the ones from the late Holt Sensei booklet. Navy blue blazer, plain white shirt, dark red necktie, grey trousers, dark blue socks. This is still valid, I assume. What would you have any tips or common mistakes to avoid? My main concern will be regarding a blazer with golden or black buttons. Thank you very much. So, right, I'll tell you where to find this exactly. Okay, so this is a rule book for Kendo Shiai and Shinpan. Okay, this is the old one. It's the old one, but it hasn't changed. This bit hasn't changed. All right, it's in here. Actually, it does tell you exactly what the Shinpan are supposed to wear. I'll find it for you right now. Okay, I'm back. So I found it. So this is, let's say, this is the old publication one. I've got the newer one. It's downstairs, but in the old book, it's probably the same page. It was on page 13. It's article number 23. Article 23 in the subsidiary rules. All right, so it's on the white pages, not in the pink pages. All right, and it says that the uniform of the Shinpan shall be as follows, unless otherwise stipulated in each tournament: a plain dark blue jacket, a plain grey pair of trousers, a plain white shirt, a plain deep red necktie, and a plain dark blue pair of socks. Okay, and I'm just looking over the Japanese part as well. It literally says exactly the same. There's no details that have been missed there or anything like that. It's one thing I think the main mistakes people make are they'll wear black socks or socks that are not completely, you know, correct, like maybe with patterns on. They'll wear tie tie with a pattern on. You shouldn't have a tie with a pattern on. It should be a plain. It says a plain deep red necktie. Okay, and deep red in Japanese is enji. It says enjiro, which is dark red. All right, so it shouldn't be bright red either. Lots of people wear a bright red one, and that's not correct. It's got to be like a wine red, like that. In terms of the buttons, it should be dark buttons. Really, it shouldn't. I don't think you should have gold buttons. I know some people have the gold buttons. I don't think that's the best. I think they're supposed to be plain, and the jacket as well is supposed to be plain. All right, so that's it. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'd say. And don't get it says grey trousers, but like there's a certain type of grey, right? It's like the right type of grey, not like pale grey. Yeah, you can see the pictures of the Japanese Shinpan, what kind of grey it should be. Okay, let's try and get some of that grey. Okie dokie, next one. I know the first answer would be I'm not a Jordan specialist, so I'll try and phrase my question differently. Yeah, I'm no Jordan specialist, tell you that. So if you were to close in on a Jordan player, what is something that they could do that would make you feel most uncomfortable or break your semi? I'm preparing for Godan, and this situation is giving me grey hairs. Senseis usually always point out that I'm letting them too close, followed with don't know what you should do about it though. I guess ideally I shouldn't let this happen at all in the first place, but when that happens, what would be the best way to deal with it? Harai, morote waza, tsubuzeri or what? So your question is, how do you beat me from Jordan, right? It's essentially what your question is. I'm not very good against Jordan. I'm not actually particularly good against it. I'm usually pretty good against Nito, but I don't do well against Jordan, if I'm honest. I don't consider myself a particularly good sort of versus Jordan player. However, the fact is, it's the same. I think you have to consider it the same as Chudan, right? And it's that if you let them control the flow of the match and the distance, then yeah, you won't be able to get through the Godan, all right? So you have to be able to apply semi and affect your opponent so that they don't want to come to your to the closer distance, or they'll get struck. But of course, the role of the person against Jordan is trying to get closer to you because they don't want you to have the advantage of the katate waza. So, you know, I think what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to make the opponent feel like, even if they get closer, they're in danger, and then you have to be able to, you have to make it dangerous for them to get closer. So I think there's a few things. In my experience, like the good Jordan players, they don't really care whether I get a bit closer or not, because they can deal with me in that distance as well. So I don't think, I know the sort of traditional teaching is Jordan should hit from further away. Jordan should hit from further away. And they certainly have the advantage of being able to hit from further away. But I think it's a little bit sort of, this is my own personal opinion, I think it's just a little bit kind of pigeonholing if you like Jordan have to only fight from far distance. So I think it's an advantage that you're able to hit from a further distance as well as from a closer distance. But if you're unable to hit from a closer distance, then, you know, it's not great. So I don't, for me, I don't think, I usually give the advice to Jordan players that it's like, oh, you shouldn't, you know, you know, you shouldn't let me get too close. It's like, okay, if I get closer and you can't deal with it, then yeah, all right, fine. Well, you're letting me get close and you're not doing anything about it. So I think the answer to that is make it a dangerous situation whether your opponent is far away or close to you. So whether that is, it could still be katate waza, it could be morote waza. I don't think moving to tsubuzeria is the good strategy, but you know, maybe you can do the harai waza, something like that. But if you watch the really good Jordan players, they're fighting at all distances, not just from the far distance. So I'd have a watch of, I did an analysis video a couple of years ago, about how to, not about how, it was an analysis of a Japanese 6th Dan exam, and one of the players was Jordan, and he was exceptionally good. And I think there's a good example in there of how to do the sort of excellent grading in Jordan. So I'd have a watch of that as well. I think it's just called Analysis 6th Dan from Jordan or something like that. It'd be easy to find. So yeah, I think that's what I would do. You can try to hit a sort of debana timing as they start to move in. Yeah, as they start to move forward, pam, debana. If they get forward, if they get closer, you can still hit the katate waza without making a large fumikomi. Do you know what I mean? Without making a large fumikomi, you can make a sort of shorter fumikomi. You know what I mean? So there's all sorts of things you can do. So yeah. Okay, last one. Right. Kiai is essential in Kendo, but there are exceptions made if the person has a disability that makes them mute? Okay, so if somebody has a condition where they can't use their voice, is there exceptions made? So yes, actually the rules don't really talk that much about voice. It is in there, but of course, if someone is unable to use their voice, then of course other factors are considered. Actually, I remember reading about one of the I think they were the 10th Dan. I think it was Nakano Sensei from Fukuoka. I think it is. I might be getting mixed up, but it's on George's website. It's on Kenshi 247. I think later in life he had like throat cancer or something like that, and I think he had he couldn't continue to use his voice, and I think that was before he got 10th Dan too. So of course there's gonna be situations where that happens, or where there's exceptions made. So yeah, of course. Now, having said that, there's in the shiai, is there an opportunity for such a player to let the Shinpan be aware of that? Well, no, there isn't. Actually, there's no sort of mechanism to do that. But unless you're playing at a very, very extremely high level, like in the European Championships or the World Championships or whatever national championships, then for the most part, you know, I think there is a sort of more informal mechanism for that to be made, for the Shinpan to be made aware of that sort of situation. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, essentially, and it's not necessarily that exceptions are made. I mean, to some extent it is, but the strike still has to have kikentai no ichi. It's not that it can just, because the voice isn't the only expression of the ki, right? In the strikes, yeah. So the strikes still have to have the good spirit and zanshin, right? So that's all still got to be there, even if they can't physically, you know, use their voice. All right. So there we go. That's them all. Thank you for joining me to the end. I hope you have a fantastic weekend planned full of Kendo. I certainly do. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Let's grow that Kendo population. And most importantly, shop at KendoStar. See you all next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.